Hi guys, welcome to another chess analysis video. I've just come back from the first weekend of the 4NCL. I was playing in Division 4 for my team I See Me 3. Unfortunately we lost both games, but a really nice bunch. I'm happy to be their teammate. We had a few beers after the games, which was always very pleasant, and they're a sociable bunch, which is nice. I'm going to do an analysis of game one because it's a bit crazy. Lots of mistakes from both sides. So, a normal game of chess, none of us are computers at the end of the day. Game two was a little bit colder. And the reason I'll do a quick explanation about that because before the game, for the first time ever, I got up early on the Sunday with my friend Luis, who's a strong player, and my friend Graham, and we looked at what my opponent played, and I've not done that before. Don't really do prep, and we looked at the line that my opponent plays, and he played it. So the game was a little bit cold. He's not a very tactical player. My opponent, he's very much. I don't want to give too much away because I may have to use these opening knowledge that, in another game. But it was a Sicilian. And a very quiet version of the Sicilian, and I got a okay position after 16, 17 moves, and we agreed to draw. Partially because the first game took 5.5 hours to play the night before, so I didn't have as much fight in me as I did the night before. But without too much further ado, I will start analysing the game. Let me just find the PDN. Load PGN. Take PDN, drop PDN. I quite like this bit because I did some prep earlier, so it doesn't take so long. Yay! Okay, so copy that. Press back, not close, because I've pressed close many times and had to reload chess.com because I'm still not tech savvy. But I'm hoping if I do this for like a whole year, that I end up looking back and thinking, gosh, I've come along a bit since my beginning starts of Chess Pasta. Okay, so I was white. My opponent is 181 ECF, 2019 FIDE, so he outgrades me on both grades. So I'm expecting a hard fight, but I like playing the higher rated players because you got nothing to lose. Don't sit back, go for them, and at the end of the day, make it uncomfortable because if they have an easy game, they're just going to crush you. So go out all guns blazing if you can. And with white, it's a lot easier. Obviously, black is a little bit trickier. But if you're white, don't play something passive. So we had the French defense, and you're thinking, how do you play aggressive against that? Well, recently I've been playing the French advance, and I get some nice attacks. One way or another, I usually sack a pawn at some point and get a little bit of initiative, and basically see how it goes. I find when you play against French players, they tend to just want to have a solid position, have a target, which is usually your D pawn or maybe your E pawn, and just carry on until white just overextends and loses. So recently I've been trying very hard to gambit a pawn at some point, which you'll see me trying to do at the beginning of the game. So this is just standard stuff. I mean, the whole point of the French defense is you're just going to counter attack against the pawn center that I'm going to set up. I'm going to set up a pawn center. He's going to bring his knight in. I'm going to defend the center. He'll bring in the queen in, putting pressure on not only the D pawn but the B pawn too. So you have to keep your bishop honest, etc., etc. That's general French defense strategy. Now what happens is it goes to plan, at least for the beginning. I'm like, yeah, okay, good stuff. Those that have seen some of my online games know which pawn I want to gambit. Well, I'll save it in reserve just in case I meet someone else over the board. No, I'll unleash it again. But yes, this completely changes my thinking right from move. This is only move 5. And considering we get an hour and 40 each, plus 30 seconds per move to get to move 40, and then once you get to move 40, you get an extra 50 minutes each. This is not the time to just play a quick move. This is time to use your time, especially when it's an unusual position, and try and work out what the hell's going on. Now, it looks very tempting to take this knight, but having played quite a few online games, if you take it, this bishop becomes a monster. So not always worth taking a knight. I'll just show you a quick sample position. To say I just went, yeah, double his pawns, happy days. So you got a target here. The G file looks nice, but I suspect he can use it before I can by just shifting his rook over. And seeing as I'm unlikely to castle queenside, not always ideal setting up a stronger player with a easy attack. Say I play something casual here. I mean, let's see. Let's just play something. It looks aggressive. Let's play bishop d3. That looks nice. It's my kind of style. I like having my bishop on a strong diagonal. Bishop come out. That looks right. I would definitely. Would I castle? That's interesting. Okay, let's keep it casual. Let's just castle. I know this seems suicidal, but I'm sure the computer whizzing away in the background doesn't really care and just builds up again. So now he's on the B pawn. So that's a weakness I don't normally deal with. Okay, so we'll defend the B pawn. I know this is going really far off the line, but I've always suffered for not having my dark square bishop in this line. So let's see, takes. Oh, his knight's coming in already. Yeah, that's bad play by me. So obviously queen c2 is a mistake straight away. But all I'm trying to say is that this bishop's a monster, and it can sit anywhere along here, and it's going to be troublesome for me. He can castle queenside possibly at some point. I know my queen's there at the moment, but obviously it's going to be in trouble. Maybe he can leave his king in the centre. This is quite a strong pawn centre, and him just bring the rook over. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I didn't want to play the game that he wanted me to play, because let's face it, he's played knight h6, fully ready for me to take that knight, and I just don't want to play his game. I'm not fussed about knight coming in as well. And the reason I'm not, because obviously this is another way to get more pressure on d5, and he could follow through with plan 1, which, as I said before, was queen out, maybe bishop d7, and then start taking here with his knight here, which is the whole point in the French, is that you're trying to undermine the centre. So I played a move that basically said, well, whatever you can do, I can do better, which is also put my knight on the side of the board and potentially offer him the swap. So like here we could have takes, and then takes. Whoops. Takes. And now it's the reverse is true for me. I mean, again, it doesn't look very spectacular, but my dark square bishop is now the killer on the board. I got possibly play a4, sneak my bishop into this diagonal. That's a beautiful diagonal for a dark square bishop. I obviously can't make that happen straight away, and he can castle really quickly. But also, my bishop looks quite nice here. Perhaps now I don't mind taking the knight, just because there's not another dark square bishop to come and get me. And I think the counterplay against this pawn's a lot weaker here. I don't know, it just feels like without the B pawn as a problem when he plays queen b6, I'll be able to hold this a lot easier. Maybe I can play bishop e3. If the knight does come in here, I'll always be thinking of playing g4 to kick it straight away. So that's why I played knight a6. Actually, a3, sorry. And also the other reason is because if we start trading in the middle, say he does bring his knight in, at least I can bring my knight in too. So I redefend the centre. And it's just another game. Didn't happen though. So knight a3, and those were my intentions behind knight a3. So he took in the centre. So I thought, oh, here we go. Is he gonna? And he played f6. And I'm like, well, I know the two breaks in the French are c5 and f6, but you'd imagine that there should be some more pieces like out or something, or your king castled and then the rook being where this bishop is. You know, this felt, I mean, it's probably theory for all I know, but I don't know, it just felt a little bit premature. And I had it again, a quick line in my head when I got to this position. I didn't spend that long here because remember, I'm looking to sack a pawn anyway, and I'll come to that in a second. But I did have the option to now take the knight because it's slightly different in this position. And I saw this position come up in my head, and then I was really worried about this bishop check. I've got to say, I mean, what's a good way to defend here? I can't block with the queen, I don't want to play queen. Don't want to block with the queen. I don't want to play king e2. So sort of forces knight blocks, but then he takes this pawn. I mean, this is what I saw when I was trying to work out. Oh, actually, maybe just take this pawn first. Actually, I think that's better because then you're watching out for this check here potentially. So I had queen check here, and then you can block with the queen. But the point is, all the pressure's still on my d pawn, and I'm just losing. I'm a pawn down, and it's going badly. So I saw that, and this is part of the reason why I go on about the bishop, dark square bishop being a big problem if you ever swap off your dark square bishop. In this particular situation, way worse for me. But that didn't happen. So after f6, I also have the option of just taking, and he takes. And also, I considered bishop b5. Oop, not e. Bishops don't move like that. Don't do that in your game. You'll get called aside by the arbiter. Bishop b5 just literally just pins the knight and takes the pressure off e5. So maybe I'd swap straight away. And also, I could just swap straight away, and then I guess you take with the queen because you want to keep moving the e pawn with some quick support. Actually, maybe take with the g pawn. You'd have a choice. Let's have a quick look. Let's see the g pawn, because I think initially I was worried about this one more than anything, because it just seemed like he'd have an easy push at some point. But then again, it's not so easy for him to castle, and I always have this diagonal, which is always something black's got to be aware of. May not be able to castle. Yeah, maybe the queen's better actually. This doesn't feel as scary as when you see it on board. It doesn't feel as scary, but queen takes is probably just the best move anyway. So queen takes that looks way more natural actually. Again, you've got the pressure on here straight away. I have to be a little bit careful where I'm going to put my pieces. Perhaps this bishop check will be on again in some point, making this pawn. Because if I ever have to block the pawn, then this one becomes on free. So okay. So maybe I could have taken. But I finally get my opportunity to sacrifice a pawn, so I'm not going to do so. Obviously, both me and my opponent saw after the swap knight f7. I mean, obviously we're both in the same page here, and I can even try and hold on to that pawn. I mean, this is the position I had in my head, and in check, and then I was just going to move my king to f1. But then I was a little bit concerned about, and this, don't get me wrong, this is very superficial, quick analysis. I mean, he could just castle, but even if he was going to keep putting pressure on the pawn, then I thought maybe rook here, and he just drops his queen back potentially. And then there's always a lot of pressure happening here. But maybe I can probably grovel around. Maybe my knight can come back to attack the bishop. Just bishop d3, maybe. This is still a good diagonal for my bishop. But either or, I don't have to. I don't have to allow this. I mean, I'm not massively joyful that my king's on f1, though. Potentially, I would chuck Harry down the board in conjunction with bishop d3. But no, it was a solid way to sacrifice a pawn, and I, as I said right from the beginning, I wanted to give something for some sort of initiative, and castling does that. And I'll just give up the pawn, which he takes, and he's going, "Oh, thank you very much. Why are you giving me a pawn?" As you'll see, I get a little bit of play for it. This pawn is always going to be a target. The e6 pawn is always something that you're going to aim for in this sort of variation while it's backward. It's not very difficult for me to get a rook to e1 and pin it, and then maybe put pressure on the d5 pawn. And then suddenly, like, I am now putting pressure on his pawns rather than him putting pressure on mine. I know he's a pawn up, but at the same time, I think it's harder to play a game where you're trying to hold on to material rather than just playing normal, natural, developing moves. So he took the pawn, I took the knight, he took back, and I played bishop h5 check. Now, on first look at this, my opponent went into quite a big think here, and I don't blame him. On first look, it just looks like you just play g6, and okay, why have I made him play g6? And the reason I've made him want him to play g6 is because I've spotted that this diagonal is actually, now there's no pawns in the way, I've got easy access to d4, and then maybe follow it up with f4, and then suddenly perhaps I'm winning some exchange or some sort. You know, I don't know if I ever have time, but maybe just bishop here and bishop here. Maybe. In my head, I'm like, well, what I should try and do potentially is make this this particular diagonal a little bit weaker first. Oops, sorry. Yeah, if you block with a knight, I just take it. Or do I take it? Actually, no. Just Queen C2 looks like a natural move actually. Control the C file and put a big pressure on the knight again. Then just Rook E1, blah blah blah, and just keep getting my pieces out. I also looked at maybe knight F7 because obviously you got to look at the obvious moves. And here I would take and let his king float in the middle of the board. I don't know, that king doesn't look that safe there. Maybe I can finally start bringing my knight in and bring it back round. But I'll be okay with this position. So either or, it's my kind of game where I actually get to throw some bits at a king, and that's what I wanted in this game. But he did play the best move, and the best move is G6 because you shouldn't be scared of ghosts at the end of the day. Okay, yeah, I kind of got what I wanted, which is the position to be odd. And, you know, I wanted a target in the middle of the board. But at the same time, he can play bishop g7, hopefully castle, and you know, I've given him a pawn for nothing, and my bishop will have to move somewhere. But I played Rook E1, simply attacking the undefended piece. So if he takes, then obviously I take the knight, and suddenly I've got the attack because I'm on this pawn twice. This king's totally in the open. Not very easy to defend this position at all. You could probably try Queen F6 for a start, and you know, I would then go into a big thing about whether to take with the Queen or Rook, and I think Queen with check is probably is going to be your best bet. And there's going to definitely be some big initiative and attack for White there. So he's not going to do that because he's a good player. So he does the natural move, which is defend the knight. And remember I said before, you know, and then if he castles, then happy days for him. So I tried F4. I mean, it's exactly what I said before. The plan. A lot of the trouble that I really wanted to, you know, start playing stuff like this. Because remember, this piece isn't defended, and the knight can't drop back to a good square to defend that bishop. But the trick in the position is always going to be knight F3, and just lose my queen, which is not something I want to do. Everything's on pre, and I'm just losing. So that plan's out the bag at the moment, and as I said previously, this one's a little bit slow. Just castle, I guess. And you know, it's not terrible for me, but I'm not getting anywhere just yet. She doesn't look that bad actually. It's funny how it's very hard for you when you know it's a sharp opening to think that you can get away with a potential slow move like bishop d2, d3, c3, and then maybe I can bring my knight in somehow. Yeah, this wouldn't be the end of the world. Obviously, this is for now. The whole point is he can't take that because I'll take his knight. But can he take that after playing? Actually, maybe bishop d2 is just bad because can he just take the bishop? He just take the bishop, can't he? Probably don't have time then in that case. I don't think there's any real follow up there. I don't know. I've still got the same trick, which is coming up in the position very shortly. The same trick. I'm not going to disclose yet, but you can always come back to this particular position and have a look at this in a second. But yes, I do have a okay trick in the position, which keeps the initiative for me. So F4. Now he has to make a choice. If he moves his knight back to anywhere, say C6, then I was always going to just play bishop G4, and there's my new target. And it's not so easy to work around. I said he could just push the pawn, couldn't he? Let's have a look. Now the reason I didn't think this was particularly good is because it's pinned, right? Because the rook is on that pawn. So what would I do? Alright, let's just superficially take stuff. Check. Oh, no, not check. Capture. quite different to check. I guess it could just castle. Then what? Then what would I have done? I guess I want to keep. That opens the position quite a lot though. Okay, I'm going to have to try, I guess, to try and keep this bishop bad, if you like, and maybe this is a target now. I don't know. I'm just going to switch the computer on for a second just to have a quick look. Okay, it's given -1, so it's still only a pawn here, so I must have some play about. I don't know. Maybe this isn't as good as I was thinking over the board. My opponent didn't drop back the knight. He went forward, bless him. And that is the way to play chess, because it puts me under pressure again, because I have to start making decisions. So he actually just took the bishop, which leads to trying to draw an arrow, not picking the queen up. Leads to me potentially taking a check, but the problem is his knight can drop back to this square. The funny thing is, in my head, first of all, I thought it had to go here. This is the lack of calculation ability of a chess patzer. I thought, oh yeah, but he'll go there, and then I was like, what do I do now? Now I could just play f5, ha ha ha, because everything's pinned. That's pinned. This is now pinned. And you know, I'm probably doing all right here. I would have thought. Been saying that. You could probably play queen here, which attacks the queen and the rook. Oh my gosh. It's funny about how optimistic I am over the board when I'm going forward, but how quickly things can turn around. Okay, so that would have been bad for me. But I actually thought just dropping his knight back to f7 was even better, because it just blocks everything. And I imagine this is just a whole piece. And yes, computer's backing out. That is the best move. So that's the move I saw. It's interesting that this one didn't work either. So again, you know, I've still got a lot to learn about the feel for a position. But my opponent took maybe 40 minutes to decide to take my bishop on h5. And when he did, I spent 40 minutes to decide on what I was going to do on the recapture. Because I take the knight with a pawn. But I looked at this line for a very long time, and I just, even though I'm going to get to the position that I had in my head, I couldn't then evaluate it properly when I got there. So this is what I had. Rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes check. Now he's not going to go into any of these dark squares, because after well, I've got a few choices. Queen takes and then pawn takes. I've got bishop coming out onto a dark square, and I'm probably mating him, because the rook's being released, and big trouble for my opponent. So I worked out that he obviously can't go there, and if he goes here, literally the same thing, because the bishop's always going to be a scary piece here after f takes e. You know, it's tough to be black in that position. But I found the best square in my head, which is here. And then I was thinking, okay, then I'll take the bishop, and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can play f5. That looks pretty strong here. So again, I had, all right, he'll be able to get rook f8 here, and now he's potentially threatening to put the kibosh on my position with just rook here, and you know, everything looks fairly solid. So when I got to this position in my head, and I couldn't see a forcing move afterwards, a check or anything along those lines, I was looking at knight b5, and as I say, the more I play, the better I'm going to get at holding positions in my head. I thought about knight b5, and I was thinking, oh, what about this check? What happens there? And funny enough, I didn't even see that I could save the knight, because I thought it just dropped the knight, but the knight can come back to here and put pressure on here. And this is the difference between seeing forced moves and not, because it's quite hard to think, oh, hang on, then he's got a check, and then my knight. And knight's going backwards is always something that people through their whole chess career will suffer. But that actually looks okay for me. Also, you know, in the cold heart of day afterwards, when I was analysing with my friends, just bishop e3 looks good as well. I mean, I'm threatening just to bring the rook over, control the c file. I've got not very much material left, but the pieces I do have are really good. Then I'll probably be more inclined to be looking at trying to play this. So, you know, White's in a good place here. But I didn't go down this line because I simply couldn't evaluate this position in my head. After rook f8, I couldn't think of a strong move. No, not a strong move, that's the wrong word. Forcing move. You know, there's no more checks for me to look at. I mean, obviously the check here doesn't do anything. He can just block with the queen. He's up a lot of material, you see. So I didn't go down this route. So I invested a lot of time to then turn down probably the best continuation. And then, funny enough, because you have to do it, I stuck it on the computer, and computers are cold. They are really cold. So after rook takes, it's not forcing for him to recapture with the bishop. He doesn't have to do that. The computer says you can just castle. How cold is that? You just leave the rook on pre. And obviously my follow-up was always going to be just to take this pawn. Put pressure on here. Maybe I'm playing queen d3. I mean, initially, that's why I thought he had to take the bishop. I didn't even consider castling, really, because I thought, well, if he doesn't take it, I'll just take his h-pawn, and that's my pawn back, and surely I'm still got a decent attack. His king's quite open. But the computer's just really good at defending. Really, really good at defending. He'll find stuff. I'm not even sure he would have found any of this, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably would have found castles, because it's something you'd definitely consider at that moment. Your options are take the piece back or castle, I think, pretty much. So this forces king h1. And then computer says bishop d7, cold as you like, still defending, doesn't really care about this pawn over here. So say I just go for the attack on it, because it looks like, how the hell do you defend this pawn? How do you defend h7? Oh, right, well, yeah. So how do you defend h7? Come on, computer, you crank your brain up. He doesn't even try. That's the kind of thing that I dislike intently about computers. It's actually just saying offer the queen and threaten checkmate here. If I take or check, I don't think I can come back. I mean, that's amazing tactics, really. Just sit your king on f7. How do I stop the mate? I guess I need to get my bishop out. That seems reasonable. Well, I guess just rook, rook h8. See that? I mean, and that's it. I mean, computers are grrr. And I don't think any of those moves are impossible for my opponent to find, except for maybe queen a6. I don't think that's obvious. I don't think that's an obvious move at all. But again, maybe he would have spotted it. So anyway, I didn't go down any of this route because, as I said, even in the good position that I would have ended up in, I couldn't see the quiet move to continuation, which is, as I say, something that I'll just get better at the more I play through the season. And so I took with a pawn, thinking, well, I guess he'll go kingside, but look, there's a lot of okay, some of them are defended, but there's a lot of space in front of his king that potentially I can get rooks along these lines. And things can't be too bad for me. I've always got the h5 pawn as a target as well. But considering how much time, now I know this is only move 15, but both of us, and you don't have to believe me, there was witnesses, we're down to 2 minutes now. We both used an hour and 40 minutes for 15 moves, and we got 30 seconds per move, so it was even longer really. So we play now, and alright, a little bit of a spoiler, we make it to the time control, but we pretty much play within the 2 minutes. Which is not going to go to the best chess, especially in a really complicated open position. There's all my my waivers out just to say what happens next, because there's a few blunders coming up. But time is such a massive facet in chess when it's that low. It's okay when you've got an hour left, but when you don't, and you can see how critical those lines were, which is why we both spent so long on them. But this was a good move for my opponent. This is yes, it caused me a lot of problems. My biggest problem being, at the moment, I don't have a massively good defense on the back rank, and it's quite easy for him to shift my king in the corner with a quick check in a minute. In most lines after castles or rook f8, I can't really stop it, and that's part of the problem when you ever lose your f pawn, is that your f2 square becomes really weak. I may have said f7 a second ago, I meant f2. And you get doubled up pieces, and then you're always threatening mates. He also has good pressure against the e5 pawn with the bishop the whole time as well. So this position is actually really tricky, and the computer is actually given just under a pawn advantage, which, considering he's a pawn up, means that it should probably be defendable for me, and I think it is. And a coward's way out here, which I did consider very quickly, because this is the problem: we got no time control and no time left. Was I was going to possibly play g3, but then I thought after queen here, I think he's just controlling the positions a lot better than I am. Castling's going to be a lot safer for him. He's defending the H pawn. If I take it, I've undoubled his pawns. He's a clear pawn up. Bishop pair on a very, very open board. And the computer laughs in my face and says it's only 0.5 up for black. But I don't care. I thought this was going to be very difficult to me. I guess what I could do is potentially, well, get my knight back involved for one. Maybe put my bishop here, and then I'll be targeting, sticking my knight on d6. Excuse me. So the options were there, but you try calculating that when you've only got 2 minutes. And the other thing is, I kind of wanted to keep his clock running too, because it is a complicated position. And that's quite forcing. So that's the only reason why I didn't play g3. So instead, I thought, well, if I ever do get my pieces out, I might actually be winning because his king's still not quite safe. So I finally played bishop d2, which is pretty false because bishop e3, you lose this pawn because you interfere with the defense. Can't go there because the queen takes it. Can't go there because the queen takes it. Can't go there because of the bishop takes it. From here, I'm considering maybe going here, maybe, but realistically, I wanted to go here. But again, this is why this queen's such an annoying piece because he actually defends across the rank, which is annoying. But fair play, and this again is why this queen move is actually way stronger than I first considered it to be. So he castles. About time, you'd say, really. And as I say, f7, f2. I don't know why I keep saying f7. f2 is now target. Well, I'm also thinking, well, hang on a minute. Remember I was saying about these two files? I've got to get a rook involved. How do I get a rook involved? And I saw a little bit of a ghost here, and again, time trouble, but I initially wanted to use this rook. And then I either come here to try and win the H pawn. Ooh. I can't get rid of that arrow, but it's irrelevant, the arrow. Or put it here and pin the bishop, which I guess he could just move his king out of the way. But that's one of my initial options. And I saw a ghost because I thought that this was a good move, but it's just not because I just checked and it's absolutely fine. I'm actually in a really good place now because if anything, I gained a move to get the rook there straight away. He hasn't even got time to get his king out of the way. Bishop g5 is now looking massive. But that's the fun of pressure. It works for both sides. Yeah, I was trying to stay as calm as possible, but there's also free coffee at the event, and I was chugging it down a bit. It was a bit of a long day. But drinking coffee when you're already a little bit nervous, possibly not the best idea. And even here, like potentially the best move is just bishop d7. Just get on with developing. My threat of this isn't actually that great anyway, because the rook is defending this pawn. Which is again what I was looking at when I was musing away, saying, well, what rook shall I use? I was thinking, well, I've got to keep the e pawn defended. So again, not something I was too happy to do. The rook lift only really works if he just blunders seriously, which would have been bishop h6, which he just wouldn't have played. But I keep coming back to it. It's so hard to think clearly when your time's ticking away. So I tried rook c1 instead, with literally the same plan, but this time perhaps I'll put my rook up here as well. So I had an option of potentially coming this way, but the safer option was to come this way. Well, at least I felt it was safer because it was keeping another piece near my king, and potentially the back rank. But everything leads to a lot of back rank issues here. And again, he plays pretty well in time trouble. Okay, it seems obvious, but it seems quiet too, so you think, oh, maybe he needs to get on with doing something. But bishop d7, just develop, get on with life. I mean, here I should really be trying to think of. He's also stopping my knight potentially coming in. Though I looked again at this with my friends, and they're like, oh, why aren't you just getting your knight into d6? But actually, it's irrelevant there. It's not attacking anything, and if anything, it's loose because of bishop takes ideas. So it would have been a lot of effort. So instead of rook c1, for instance, just play knight b5 now. So he attacks it with tempi. So and then I get my knight in. Oh great, I've got a fantastic knight. And I was sitting there going ultra fast coffee calculations. Well, that's a very nice knight. Now what? And then I was thinking, well, what happens if he just puts his bishop there? and I've had this in a lot of French positions, so it's ideas I'm looking for. And this is it's just looking really, 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 really bad for white when I've got no time. I'm not really anywhere near his king. As I say, it's superficial this night. It looks nice, but doesn't do anything. It's pretty, it's aesthetic, and that's all it'll ever be. No depth. A bit like me, really. No, I'm joking. I'm not even pretty. Sorry, gone back a bit farther. So castles. Rook c1 with the ideas of, like I say, swinging over. Bishop d7 because it's a good developing move. No, not rook e3. No, rook c3. There we go. So, as previously forecast, I'm just going to swing my rook over and win the game. No problem. Queen check. Yep. Have to move my king. Now I have the proverbial back rank issues, so I can't move either of these two pieces without getting mated. And obviously, this is exactly the point. He takes with check. I can't take, because if I take, he doesn't take with check, but he takes the pawn, and then I can't defend the back rank. It's just mate. So another reason why rook c1, c3, even though I am thinking like very quickly, like, oh my god, I've got to get another piece in, I've got to get another piece in, but just completely failing on tactics. Under pressure, of course, under pressure. But my opponent must have think, oh good, I'm just totally winning now, which is not a lie. But I'm not giving up. Like I say, we're on move 18. We have to make move 40, and we've both only got 2 minutes. So no need to give up at all or sink into a depression or anything, because it's still really tricky. So wins the pawn. I attack the pawn, because if I can win a pawn back, again, perhaps I'm going to stick some pressure on here at some point. Maybe you've got to be optimistic, but you never know. You can maybe potentially get your queen here, and then suddenly, you know, this bishop's actually a little bit offside. It's never defending the light squares over this side of the board. So, you know, I'm not in any way, shape, or form upset here. I'm not happy I lost a pawn, sorry, another pawn I should say, but I know that I'm going forward and there's going to be chances for me. So he plays a nice cold move here, and it's the best move. Just defends the pawn. Not only does it defend the pawn, he's trying to bring the bishop back into the game, which is obviously going to be good for him. This rook over here can come into the game later on. At the moment, his bishops are monsters. So I try. Bishop e3, because I'm hoping that if he takes this pawn over here, that he's a little bit offside. It may be the best move. I'm not sure though. And then I was thinking, well, I've got to finally block off the defense of this square now, and I'll bring my piece into the game. So I'm not feeling awful here. Potential of let's have a look. I don't know. I could go mental here and try moves such as g4. I'm probably never going to do it. But I'm bringing my pieces back in the game. He'll obviously bring his pieces back in the game, I guess. Like, you just attack the knight. That's a nice little move. It's funny, isn't it, how chess can spin round in seconds. I mean, it did potentially on the e6 pawn after the swaps. It's a little bit complicated. What happens on bishop takes here? Oh, I just take the queen, of course. Yeah, and then that's okay. That's okay. But he didn't. He went for cautiousness, but consolidation. Should we call it a consolidating move? He just brought his queen back. Still threatening the b pawn, but that again let me off the hook. So I'd gone from probably -2 because 2 definite pawns to suddenly I've got some initiative again, which I take straight away. The point being, I'm attacking his rook. The rook's only got 1 square. If he brings the rook forward, he's now no longer defending this pawn. Or in fact, I can just go straight forward. I mean, this is a plan for in a minute's time, and it works even better here. I'm not actually 100% sure how he goes about defending the bishop. But I also got options of just taking this pawn as well. With the rook, yeah, because I can just take with the rook because I'm also attacking this way with the 2 pieces. So I guess it's complicated. I guess he can take the b pawn. This is the kind of thing you don't really want to happen when you've only got 2 minutes on your clock. But anyway, none of that happened. I will speed through a little bit because it is still quite a long game. That didn't happen. So after Queen f6, Queen f6. As I say, nice little move. Spotted quite quickly considering the complication of the position. So proud of that one. The right choice. Give up the exchange. Get yourself a really good bishop. He's still got an edge here. Takes. And here I've got to say, even though the computer's whizzing away in the background saying it's +1 for black, I actually think white's actually quite dangerous here. You know, I am the exchange. I've got an exchange. He's got 2 pawns as well, so it's level material. But rooks are pretty good in this position. I know the bishops are, but so are rooks. There's open lines. So I just wanted to kill his last rook, and then hopefully get my rook around to the back rank, which I attempt to do now with swaps. This was a bit of a casual move. Computer screaming 000 here, which is always nice. Always nice to see that, you know, I defended okay in the end. But there's a stronger move apparently. Let me just quickly find that because it's quite a long video already, so I wanna speed on. Okay, well, okay, the computer's not really, it's not really changing the eval. So Queen E2 is as good as any move. Obviously, I'm on this pawn, on this bishop, and on this pawn, so he's forced to block with his bishop, but also sets up mate. So that's awkward for my queen. Again, still no time. We're still rattling through the moves. I'm thinking now, look at this check here. He'll have to move his king somewhere because he can't block with any other minor pieces, and then I'm just gonna, you know, do the old check and then check and win his queen. Great. End of game. Thank you very much. But he plays the best move. Stop playing the best move. It's not fair. And here I do another big blunder, really. And I get lucky for the rest of the game, to be honest. I wanted to cause that king a lot of trouble, and I thought I could get round the back. I really fully believed this. I'm not busted here. I'm not. It's not like it's mate in 7 or something silly for him. It's only going to be a couple of pawns or something. But I do get a little bit carried away. Again with him, like, I think he's in 30 seconds here as well. So I'm trying to really make him worry. I'm trying to use psychology against him. But really, you should just use good moves. That's a very good rule of thumb, I think, for chess players. So he moves the king. It's fine. Blunder. I really in not much time control. Only saw this after I played Queen F2. Which, when the queens come off, he's just Bella, because these 2 pawns are monsters with 2 bishops and the king supporting. I'm pretty much toast. She sees instantly, which is such a shame. And obviously, I'm a bit heart drops a bit here. I drop back because it's the only move. Otherwise, it's mate. He swaps, and as I say, she's got a very good endgame now. It's not it's not instant win for black, but it's so much easier to play for black than it is for white. My knight's still offside. My rook hasn't got that many squares thanks to the bishops when they all start moving around and the pawns start moving. But, you know, we go on. I'm going to get us up to the time control now because we both played pretty fast here. And nothing gets missed too much. He's just stopping my knight go to b5, but I save the pawn as attacked by the dark square bishop. He starts activating his king. I bring my knight back in. That's why a6 potentially was a little bit of a waste, just because I always had c2 in my head about getting the knight out that way. And to be honest, I want the knight in front of those pawns, or to the side of the pawns, but not where it can get kicked around. It didn't seem to have many squares from b5, so I was always coming back this way. Activating the king, activating the knight, activating the king. The rook can just shift back for some forwards. I'm basically trying to get behind a pawn that I can take at some point. Computer evals actually dropped down to under a point advantage for black here. So neither of us are playing optimally at all. Check seems fair, but I get my king to the centre. He's not going to make me with 2 bishops, though I do have to watch out for skewers and forks all the time. Again, I think we're trying to make time control. It's very much these are moves where we'll have to respond fairly quickly. This move 37. And then I played knight f3 with 45 seconds still on my clock, and when I made myself coffee number 7. No, it must have been about 4 or 5. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. Again, witnesses will attest that I did keep popping off for coffees. It was nice coffee. What can I say? Probably not the best to do when you're under shed loads of time pressure. But at this point, I knew that my clock was going to go, but I'd get an extra 50 minutes. So I walked off. There's nothing I can do about whatever he did next on his last move, so I let him just struggle through the last minute and 30. And when I came back to the board, I saw this move. And around here, I don't know if it was this move particularly. I should have noted it on the score sheet. I did offer a draw. But he's never going to give me a draw. 1, he's a higher rated player. And 2, I think black's position is definitely easier to play. So I will motor on a little bit. Just trying to give my rook some squares. All these squares are where I want to be are covered at the moment. So I want to get my rook to the back rank again. So maybe I can scoot over to get behind this pawn, etc. So the next few moves are both trying to fight for position. Obviously, you want to get your king up the board and then start pushing those pawns. I'm trying to get my knight active. I'm hoping for tricks. I'm on this pawn briefly. I'm also looking at this check because you never know. Previously, I was looking at a check here with his king, where it was if he'd done something silly like let's just quickly do the hopefulness in my position was, I don't know, maybe he'd drop his bishop back. These are things that I cover some squares and you just drop your knight in with check and you're suddenly winning. Because if I ever win one of those bishops, then my rook will dominate the other bishop. But he does well to avoid all exchanges of knight for bishop. Again, I will whiz a little bit quickly here. It's a 61 move game. This is move 42. So funny enough, I mean, even like with this 50 minutes each, we still spend quite a long time. There's still tricks to avoid, etc. As I say, my rook's a bit more active there. Okay, scary pawn coming. I'm definitely not feeling good here, I've got to say. Activate the king. He activates the king. Now here I was thinking if I could somehow get here with check, then I'd be happy. Obviously the bishop covers here, so my next move is to move this bishop hopefully to a slightly worse square. Not that move, sorry, it's coming. This move is just to make that bishop, because as I say, my rook here is probably going to be quite good, because maybe in conjunction with my knight, perhaps my king will get somewhere. I mean, this light square bishop is just horrible. This is why it's such a horrible position for white. But maybe I can put some pressure on these passed pawns. So the idea of rook f8 was literally to make this bishop move to slightly worse square. It's not going to come here because I just take it. If it goes there, well, let's see. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is the same plan actually. I'm just going to attack this pawn, then come back down this way, attack the bishop, and then come this way because I'll gain time on the bishop, and then I'll have a really active. Actually, here I can just go here. That was the original plan, wasn't it? Yeah, I can. No, actually, I'll just instantly go here, and he must have seen it. That was, as I say, it's only an idea until your opponent plays the move, right? So he plays the best move, which again I saw, and I was still going to do rook here, and in here. But then I realised it's just not as good as I considered. And I don't get a lot of endgames, so it's nice to play an endgame with a little bit of time on your clock, because there is a lot going on. Yeah, check. Okay, that was always going to happen. Nothing I could do to stop that. Obviously, not into d2. That would be a big blunder because the bishop can come in then, and then that's just game over. The king will just float through the middle, and you're just dead. So d1's okay. Not losing yet. d5 saves the pawn. Now here I didn't actually even follow through with what I originally considered, which is maybe a mistake. And the reason I didn't follow through is because I was suddenly considering, Oh, how quick is this pawn? I mean, it's a really fast pawn. I need to grab some material and hopefully like a miracle will happen and I'll bail out and still have some material. So I changed my plan and I went for the A pawn instead, which is a slightly worse plan than the original plan. Let's just put it this way. I had it on the computer and it was saying +2 here, which is not good. The other way was plus 1.5, but you know, semantics. I was thinking, well, and this is another general rule of chess. If you're losing, just take whatever material you can, because if your opponent ever messes up, you'll have that material. That's just something you should always stick with. It'll get you out of a lot of trouble because people don't play constant computer moves unless they're cheating, but they're not cheating. Not in this case. So here comes the scary pawns of doom. I grab the pawn. Oh dear, oh dear. I don't have much here to say, but I am busted completely. I didn't play as accurately as I could have with the rook and the knight, and you know, it's another lesson learned. But game goes on. This is obviously a massive threat. I saw this from him pushing the pawn from here, to be honest, and obviously he's as good, if not better, than me, so he was always going to see it too. So I go for another pawn. Why not? It's got a sneaky level of, you know, after the check, if I take, after I move my king, I might be able to win his bishop. So it's a little bit sneaky. He didn't see this move. I don't think either of us did until it happened, because desperado. And it doesn't work either. But luckily, we're almost back into time trouble again here. And I think he's nervous and he wants to win. And I think he knows as well that I'm probably going to do a video on this. So I think that was on his mind as well. Plus, we had a few people watching. It's all about pressure in chess. Because obviously after takes check, he can go where he likes really. Just go here. And I'll win this. I could win that, but it's just losing. I can't stop the queen. There's no stopping it. The bishop's covering the square. So it's just game over. So I'm not sure why. I never asked him about this. But my one trick in the position for a change, and it's happened to me many times. You see me be plus 8, plus 9 before and not win and lose. Well, my opponent here is plus 14 because there's no stopping the queen. And I just think maybe he thought, well, I can just stop even that little trick, which he didn't need to do. And he's still winning here, but he's giving me a chance, a very, very slim chance. Because I'm already giving this knight up. The whole point of this is that I give up the knight for one of the pawns. And then I hope that my king is close enough to this pawn. And then we'll have a fight between rook and double bishop, which I'll always lose. Always. There's just no way you fight against this with a rook. Not on an open board. I'll eventually get stuffed. All I can think of is give up the knight for a pawn, try and win this pawn and have 2 passed pawns myself, and miracles happen. So a4, because I've got to get them pawns moving as well. It's not about just winning that pawn. I need to get that pawn down for a queen. It never happens. Sorry to be a spoiler, but it doesn't happen. He takes the knight. I take the pawn. So like, as I say, I've got my 2 passed pawns now. I can't take the. I still can't take the bishop, but I can take that pawn. And now, as I just said, this is all forcing. I've got what I just described before. So from minus 14, it's now only minus 3. And I still see one trick in the position to get a chance to stay in the game. And this is the trick right now. And it doesn't work, but you've still got to have this in your arsenal. You've got to know about this particular idea. So those who stay to the end of this video, you're going to save some games because of this move. Now, I'm attacking the bishop. It's not defended, right? So he, again, I had about 10 minutes left. He had long enough to work this out. But in his head, he's probably thinking, oh, well, I'll just play bishop here anyway because I'm going to win the h-pawn. And it's game over anyway. And that is what happened. But a much, much stronger move is bishop b4 check. And it's just game over. I'll have to go up to e3, and I can't stop the pawns. Basically, it's toast. But he went with the first option, unfortunately for him, and this is now 0-0-0-0 because rook takes, and he has the wrong color pawns with this particular bishop, because you need to have a light square bishop. You need to have the color square bishop of the square that you're trying to queen on. He takes, and he understands this. Obviously he does, and I'm sure his heart went down. And as mine went up, you know, like I've saved a game where I was totally lost, and I instantly blunder. The move to not blunder is h3, and you're thinking, why? What difference does that make? And I'll show you what difference it makes. So I took the pawn, and he had a brilliant winning move. It's just h3. And thinking, what difference does that make? Well, unfortunately, now my king can't get in. Because my king needs to get into h1. And once you play h5, he's covering these squares. And the king's no good sitting here. He's got enough... Actually, maybe the computer's wrong here. Let's play it on, just really quickly. I'm just going to sit my king where it wants to be. So it's saying take the pawn. Ah, that's why, because I still can't get in. But then I don't know. Yeah, I guess he'd bring his king over and force me away from this line. And as soon as the king comes in, yeah, that's why it's lost. Okay, fine. And that was his last chance again. But we both just bought that it was a draw. So instead of playing pawn down, he just forlornly he took on h2, and I played king f3 and offered to draw, and it was a draw because there's no way to stop the king either winning this pawn just for a start, but then just sitting there, and it's definitely not winning because I can never get these pawns up the board. But even if these two pawns were there, they're irrelevant. The point is, it's a known draw because the king can never be forced out without stalemating. Anyway, that was really long, guys, but I do have a walk-in video, so I will finish with that really quickly. Let me just quickly load it up because I feel like I need to finish the full package, as it were. And you know, I always do a walk-in video. So this is the venue. It's going to be a bit loud to start with. Hang on, I'm going to play with the volume now, just to stop the volume being stupidly high. You know it always is, so bear with.
Hi guys, this is me at the 4NCL in a lovely hotel. I've got to say, it's a little bit away from the station, and we walked it yesterday, but I don't recommend that. I think you just get a taxi from the station, just take the hit. I mean, you'll probably be able to team up with other chess players. It's not going to cost very much. This is like the main walk-in area. The bar's through over there. The restaurant is for dinner and breakfast, and the breakfast was delicious. We got a twin room for £36 each with breakfast included. It's very pretty. I mean, this place seems to be renowned for its golf course as well, so if you like golf, I guess this is the place to come. I definitely don't know anything about that, but let me just walk you through to the venue so you can see where we play. Had a very interesting game yesterday. Managed to draw. I'm not sure I'm going to do the analysis on it, but I potentially will. The only reason I'm saying that is because we both played badly in time trouble, so it was a bit of a mess, but maybe that'll be entertaining. But I'll make that decision when I do the video. If not, hopefully today's game will be interesting. So this is the main playing hall. This is where the arbiter sits. This is, well, these are all the teams. There's 6 ball matches. As you can see, this is just before the start of the round, so everyone's milling around. So yeah, let's hope for an interesting game, and I'll speak very soon. Bye for now.
Okay, so that's the end of the video. I've got a London League match tomorrow. Looks like I may be joining a local club, Beckenham and Bromley, but we'll see about that. That's going to happen on Thursday if it happens. But for now, obviously I'll be back. It was a bit of a long video, so those who stayed to the end, thanks a lot. Please like, subscribe as usual. If you've already done that, obviously you can't, but thank you. And bye for now. Cheers, guys.